when I drove by it and took a look at it, that's what entered my mind is that, hey, they could just fence this in and have a place for the children to go out any time of day in the summertime.
That's entirely
I don't
possible.
know if they would want to do that, but
I'd like to
Lem-
give this over to Ross Glicker.
let me just answer that
Mike.
parking. That parking lot is prone to flooding often. That floods frequently. To fence that in as the play area for the children is going to create a larger and more eminent safety hazard. It wouldn't be a good idea to put that in there. Wrong.
To address some of the concerns that were brought up at the zoning board and being discussed tonight, I did contact the Park District and talk to Michelle Silver, who I believe is their director of facilities. And she had stated that it is a public park, can be used by a daycare facility, can be used by any business or resident of Wooddale. They have no objection, they have no restrictions regarding that. They will not reserve the park for organizations for times because it might conflict with other uses of the park. As far as DCFS, I've been talking to them and looking into their requirement. The DCFS requirements for a daycare center are approximately 140 pages of regulations. And there are about 8 pages regarding outdoor play areas. It does state that in general, outdoor play areas should meet several requirements, fencing on the lot, many different requirements. However, it does then, after it goes through all the requirements, it does state that based on if prior approval of the department is given, a nearby park, schoolyard, or other alternative shall be considered on a case-by-case basis. And it shall be considered on 8 criteria, which is the accessibility of the children and staff by foot, or the availability of push carts or other means of transporting infants and toddlers, the age of the children in the groups, the availability of appropriate equipment, traffic patterns of vehicles and people in the area, condition of the park in areas related to safety, and usage of the park by other groups when the children would most likely be to use it. So it is a DCFS call on that one. There's no specific requirement that they have a fenced lot for the children, provided there are acceptable alternatives to DCFS.
Alderman Subak?
Because of the flooding issue, then I think it was a good suggestion by Alderman Shockey, but I understand the concerns. But just in a state of fairness, I mean, the Park District built that there. I think with the idea of residents in place, not businesses. So, I don't think it would be out of line to, because I don't know if it's going to be large enough. Hopefully, your business thrives there, and there's kids all over that equipment. But maybe it's not large enough for that. So, I certainly think that we should contact the Park District about future expandability of that, and whether or not the property owner and the business owner would make a contribution to the Park District to pay for expansion. Not large, but something towards the Park District. Say, we're going to be using this, maybe 200 days of the year, and we want to pay our fair share. So a contribution from the petitioner to the Park District to help pay for long-term replacement of that equipment or expansion or additional amounts of equipment over there.
That, I believe, would have to be something between the petitioner and the Park District that I don't think we'd have the control over, since it's not our property as such. The
Well,
park itself, that park itself is underutilized.
Okay.
The school, Holy Ghost goes in there, they use it, they bring all their classes in there in good weather and all that. It's a big facility. There's other groups, that use it and all that. I personally don't see any problem with it. And, like I said, I have observed that park for 33 years, up till recently. So, I think I know what I'm talking about there. Alderman Ptolemy.
I'd just like to ask, everybody's making kind of an issue about using the park, but how much really is that of your planned day? Is the center that you're planning on operating, is it more of a structured type center, I mean, where, how can I
We will
put
have
this?
a daily schedule, yes.
Yeah,
And
but you're
actu-
not, but what I'm getting at is yes, there's a certain amount of time that you have a set aside to go outside, but it's not necessarily every day, or, because some of the children you're going to be taking care of, I mean, you're not going to even take them out of the building because, am I right? And
Really, yes, it really depends on the daily schedule, on the topic of the week, how the children are feeling, what's the weather, and we don't have to go out every day. We do activities inside, so we keep them busy, and we also will look outside how many children are at the park district, so we can do many other things. We can do walks with them. We can play ball at the back of the public park because it's a lot of space available there.
what age group are you looking to?
From 2 to 6.
2 to 6?
Lauren Wesley?
I see no reason not to approve this because, they still got to get every approval for DCF for this daycare. And you know what? I think the motion should be, if we approve this, that providing that you get approval from DCF with all the things, or else you do not get the approval. I mean, I don't know if that's part of the motion or not.
I would like to make that in the motion and to approve the special use permit request to allow for the operation of daycare center at the real property known as 176 West Irving Park Road, Wooddale, Illinois, subject to any and all required outside agency approvals. For example, State of Illinois professional standards licensing requirements, DuPage County Health Department requirements, Department of Children and Family Services requirement, approval and issuance of the city business license. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, any further?
One last question. My question again is,
Oh, Subak.
are the petitioners willing to make a monetary contribution to the park district if they would accept it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's do a roll call, please.
Alderman Subak,
Yes.
Alderman Coles,
Yes.
Alderman Winger,
Yes.
Alderman Knipe,
Yes.
Alderman Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Shockey,
Yes.
Alderman Talmy.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next items to be considered at future meetings, changes to the ZBA procedures, model ordinances requiring community antenna television systems to obtain franchises, zoning maps and zoning codes, B4 zoning district, and the Wooddale Community Church PADS program occupancy limit. Any other items anybody would like to add?
No, I would just ask the petitioners at daycare if they could be here next week also, because I might contact the park district between now and next week. And if they give me an idea of a number, I'd like them to, if they could be at the meeting, that would be great.
No further items. Make a motion to adjourn. A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So stand adjourned.
I'd like to call the Public Health and Judiciary Committee to order, make the minute taker, make the same all present. I need a motion to approve December 14, 2006 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Items considered at future meetings, smoking ban in the city of Wooddale, LI Waste Container Program, dated for 2/8/07. Does anyone else have any other business to go on that? Okay. I make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Take a 5-minute recess before Public Works.
Your meetings are too long. It's pretty funny. It was quicker than I thought it would. Everything else.
I'd rather see families over there than personal people. And I'd rather see families in section 1 than
I know. And torn. Honestly, I'm torn on this. I almost voted no. On the one with the condos. Yeah. I know, but I might change. I mean, I really am torn on it. That, I mean, what if we could make it something? You know?
Yeah.
Talk to me again about those dates and those you're reading for the.
They're on that paper on top.
Okay, because I gotta get going. I still gotta write 2 contracts tonight. So.
Okay, they're on top of the cover letter.
Okay, so write the dates down. Then I didn't know if you still. I didn't want to go look at your stuff. Thanks. See you later.
I think I can. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, like the part that I'm most afraid about is the administration around watching them with the 50%. When they're gone, and the next people that move in, and then they do this, and then the association says we need to tuck point, we need to do or whatever they got to do, reside the places. You know, how much?
Well,
Will that add? I
okay,
don't know.
some of that came up at the meeting, part of it at least. The roof is fairly new on it. The place has been upgraded. Now, I don't know if you were around before Larry got it and converted it. It had a pool in the center.
No, I
Okay, it used to have a swimming pool in the center and it was run down and looked terrible. Now, he did redevelop it, and he did redesign it and fixed it up nice, cleaned it up nice, and made it into apartments that people were willing to stay in. Evidently, since then, it's been going downhill a little bit. And I'm just afraid, like he admitted, it would be government, federal government stuff, Section 8, HUD housing. And we're going to have those kids from the city running all over the place.
Right.
And then they're not going to take care of it. Whereas a condo, and the prices they're talking about are for a garden apartment, it's $99,000. For some, it's $100,000. And the 2-bedroom were $127,000. So it's a good starting place for a young couple. Even though it's 2 condos, stacked on top of each other. You got the garden apartment, the first floor, and the second floor. It's still an affordable way for them to own something and start building up equity. And I think you have people taking care of it more. Now, when it comes to the 50%, the 50% I think is more towards if there was another 100-year flood and the garden apartments were flooded out. And they had to replace the walls, the floors, and everything else. Then they would have trouble hitting the 50%. But if you bought a condo there, let's say in 5 years you decided you weren't going to move out yet, but you wanted to change the cabinets, that shouldn't be part of 5%. Or you wanted to change the rug because whatever. Or you wanted to paint the place.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think. No, I don't think it does really. The 50% should be for, like you said, the association type of thing. We're going to charge $80 a month for association fees. No, it's from compared to what everything else is. And there would be a place for kids who grew up in Wooddale to come here and live. Because right now, they can't afford a house. My kids can't. My daughter, for instance, can't afford to move into Wooddale right now. They're both working. They still don't have the money. Whereas something like that, they're not going to move into that because they're in a townhouse. But it would be a good starting thing. And it would be people who would keep it up and keep it clean.
And it would probably qualify as affordable housing.
Yeah, well, that it is, absolutely. So we're on the edge right now of that, aren't we? So that would push us way over, and we would have 70-some less apartments and 70-some more private homes, basically condos. So that's why, the stuff about the parking is 14 spaces.
I don't care about the parking.
All 4 of those things are. Yeah, I think so. I want to look at the whole picture and see, for one time, look at the picture and see where it's going and, what we should do, or what it should look like. And I think that's the best, I think condos are the best way.
Yeah. And I think that they can do something that says no rentals ever.
They said they would. They said they
At
would.
the end they did? Okay.
They said they would do that, and they said, see, at the ZBA meeting, they danced around putting in the idea of the 50% if it's flooded.
Yeah.
they said, well, we put in all the necessary federal stuff, but that wasn't in there.
Exactly.
But I said, that's why I said that should be
They
in
need
there.
to have that in there.
Right, that should, the people who are buying should know that up front, so we don't get stung when we're the bad guys.
In the deed,
In the deed,
in the
right,
deed.
right in the deed.
So right
it
in
should
the
say it.
deed, and so no one, they signed off on it, and they had to read it, you know what I
Right,
mean? So at
exactly.
least, you know,
Exactly, and the ones that would be at risk would be the garden apartments, but for $100,000,
no.
you know, for 100-year, which is what we're talking about, 100-year storm before they would really flood. So I think all those things, as they talked at the ZBA meeting, even though the vote was 4-3 to pass it, I believe, I decided it would be better for the community if it was made condos. Now, they did lie. They did lie in one area, because they were asked, the ZBA, when did this come up about converting it into condos? Was this the original attempt when you bought it a year ago? And they says, well, no, it's something that we thought
They
about this
lied.
summer. They lied, because they knew up front they were
They
going to
did.
convert condos.
They did.
And I don't like that.
I don't like that either. They lied.
But at the same time, if you balance the whole thing out, I think
Right.
condos are the
Right.
best way
Right,
to go.
right. But like the other thing too, if there's this 50% rule, like right now, doesn't it like if it's upgraded beyond 50, isn't it the same problem right now?
I think so.
I mean, what's the difference?
Right.
Right? I mean,
Yeah,
and, I mean, if we're talking to it, I mean, it's like, what's the difference?
that's what I think. That's what I think. I'd like if they see that area stay nice, like Larry made it,
Right?
and not go downhill with Section 8 housing. That's what scares me. I mean, they admit it.
Wait,
Because they've got 20 vacancies out of 70,
That's a lot of
73
I
homes.
used to live at Northbrook Apartments in Bensonville.
huh?
There's one section in as section for certain people where I used to live.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
No, we got 3 of those in Georgetown right now, at least 3 of them. And those are, that's why they have the walking patrols.
Like
That's why
3
they have
units or 3 buildings?
3 units in that place.
Yeah.
In other words, if they get burned out in Chicago, they bring the whole family out there and build the place. And it's not that there's something wrong with blacks, it's that they're brought up with a completely different kind of attitude.
Eugene, how
They
you
lived on
doing?
the 56.
What's up? What's
You
up?
know, the stealing, the all troublemaking, all that kind of stuff.
Special vet meeting on Monday. I had another meeting I had. No, I know, I understand that. But you know what?
I don't know what
Wally
else
and
to
I
say.
I
talked.
know.
Certain person from the museum. She didn't show us her figures. She didn't show us her figures. They passed that to our friend. Hey, is the condo dead? He won't come back. He needs supermajority to overturn it. The condo.
No, he needs to. That's what he says. A couple of years when we voted on a request that wasn't even. Well, I think it was 2 to 1.
Well,
It was modifying too.
Drawback is his figures. It's going. I talked to Scotty. It's going to cost him almost between $20,000 and $30,000 a stand pipes in and upgrade everything. It's a lot of money, man. So he comes back and shows me something. No, but the whole building itself, with the standpipes in and everything. Upgrade that they got, put a panel in each room. Let him come back. I have no problem looking at it again, but he needs to come back with those figures then to show me exactly. Because I am not jeopardizing the flood rating insurance for this whole community. I am not doing it. So he wants to come back and look at that again, that's fine. Should go tell him that I want to see it. And I want to. I mean, hey, did you get Dave DeJohn?
What?
Did you get Dave DeJohn? Or did you help him? You helped him. I knew you did. I knew you did. I knew you did.
Now we're going to go back next month. We got a meeting January 30th
Huh?
with the Jubilee meeting. Monday was. I just want to keep you up to date.
Or sorry.
We're ready to start.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Williams? You come here, man. You've been in town a long time. Do you remember what that building complex was like before Larry bought it?
Before they built it.
Before Larry bought it? And the problems, drugs. Okay, that's what we're gonna have again.
They gotta do something.
Do me a favor, ask Frank what he thinks. Larry kicked it.
I'd like to call the Public Works for January 11th, 2007 to order. Let the record reflect the same members are present. Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 14th, 2006. Is there a second?
Second?
On the question, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Next is item number 4. It's a report recommendation of the GIS System Engineering Contract Award. Originally, staff went out and got a bid from Baxter and Woodman. We were upset there's only one vendor. They went back and said, we went out for new bids, and guess what? Baxter and Woodman, from who responded, was the lowest. I think Gary didn't add in his memo that was, I told you so. So I'd make a motion to approve the contract to Baxter and Woodman Consultants, an amount not to exceed $72,000. Is there a second?
Second?
And I apologize to Dave and Gary for questioning it. First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item is the Mill Road Bridge sidewalk project. Staff had a meeting with the Village of Addison in October of 2006. This was a project that originally started with Congressman Hyde as a proposal. Then it came down to Addison, and there's a cost sharing. Wooddale paying 60% and Addison paying 40%. We were a little bit concerned about the split, but it does follow what the sidewalk is. It's estimated that the city's cost of this would be between 30 and 40,000, based upon the way Addison has been very favorable with our treatment plant study. I think that it would be in our best interest to be good neighbors and go forward on this project. Before I make a motion, do you have any questions? Alderman Shockey? I'm sorry, Alderman Wesley?
I have a question. Could you tell me what line item of this budget's going to come out of? Because certainly we don't have that kind of money in sidewalk replacement, unless it's capital project.
No, you're correct. It is not in the 06, 07 budget, so it will be budgeted for 07, 08, and then future budgets.
So that means that could take part of our funding for our Cedar sidewalk project.
No, I think there'll be adequate funding, because this year we're going to scale back on the reconstruction of streets and focus just on the resurfacing of streets. So the amount of reconstructions we'll be doing, Cedar's a high priority from this chairman to make sure that's on there as well as this.
Thank you.
In fact,
Alderman Ptolemy?
I'm sorry, in fact, if I could, I believe in previous conversation, we're going to try and get the Cedar thing still into this year's budget.
We're going to try this spring.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Alderman Winger?
Thank you. Is your motion going to include that the CMAQ grant has to be received and, or at least confirmed that we have it before moving forward? And then also review of the proposed contract, since there are a few pieces in the contract that look like they need to be tweaked.
Yes. Once I make that motion, I'll, even because it's in your ward, I'll probably allow you to make the motion. Mayor Johnson?
Gary, one thing you need to look at as this project goes forward, the county bike maps show that this bike path is already in from Addison all the way to Songbird Slough. And there's signage in Addison along Prospect all the way to the bridge. So we will need to appropriately stripe the bike path, continuing and do additional signage, assuming we think the bike path is a good thing.
Alderman Ptolemy?
yeah, just a question, Gary. You stated in here, you know, as a matter of fact, in the very first paragraph, directed to contact the Village of Addison and the Forest Preserve District concerning funding of the project. Were you able to contact the Forest Preserve District? And if so, were they amicable to donating some money towards the project? Or did they say, we don't care if we own the land, you know, you guys want to do it, go ahead and do it?
It was shortly after the October committee meeting that we also, or kind of parallel, were working with the treatment plant discussions. And as you know, Forest Preserve District has been working with us on their property for the treatment plant as well.
Okay.
So along the same recommendation with regards to Addison, that's why we're recommending just to proceed forward as originally proposed and not seek funding from the Forest Preserve.
Oh, okay,
Because they're working with us on the other project.
okay. Makes sense.
Alderman Chalky?
What side of the street is this sidewalk going to go on?
The east side.
And it is, like you say, it's forest preserve property on both sides, actually.
Yes.
So we're building a sidewalk on somebody else's property.
Well, it's our right of way.
It's our right of way. It's across Forest Preserve frontage, correct?
Yeah.
And we're going to go all the way from Mary Jane up to the edge of the bridge.
Yeah, south to the bridge, essentially, correct.
Okay, because the bridge itself has at least 5 foot of walking space on each side.
That'll be part of the plans, is to protect that walking space going over the bridge. And that aspect is still not resolved as to what form of protection it'll be, whether it be a concrete wall or whether it might be just striping. So that has not been decided, but.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'd make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement to be forwarded to the city attorney for his review, and also subject to that the contract contains language that it's subject to approval of the CMAQ grant.
Second.
Anything else on the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. One opposition. Next item is item number 6. It's the Public Works office furniture purchase. We had a set a budget for purchasing office furniture in the amount of $20,000. Gary went out for bid for proposals from different companies, and it's the recommendation of staff to use Hendrickson and Company. Gary's a professional. I take this as he's going to be using the stuff. His staff's going to use it. I prefer not to get involved as long as it's in the budget amount, and he knows how hard he fought to get us in the budget originally. Any questions from any council members? Alderman Coles?
Did you get heavy-duty seats?
Yes, our chairs will, I mean, yeah.
Because
I
you're
know.
such a big guy.
And to be honest with you, working on construction, you know, we don't, it's not like an office environment.
Yeah.
You do need the fabric, which is gonna stand up over time.
All right, that's good.
Alderman Shockey?
Is there any reason why we didn't go with the lowest bidder?
There is, and there's a last paragraph there on the memo from Keith to myself, and it does state that there was a lower price. However, they achieved that lower price by not meeting the specifications. In other words, for one example, they substituted 30-inch wide desks as opposed to 36-inch wide desks. We had specified a wider desk to accommodate the engineering plans, and when you're on a narrower desk, all of a sudden you're holding the plans in your lap, and it's not. And that's why we specified what we specified, was to make it efficient for us. And certainly they were able to meet the price because they didn't meet the specification.
Thank you.
No other question, make a motion to approve the contract award to Hendricks and Son in an amount not to exceed, now Gary, you asked for 20,000, but shouldn't it be their amount of $17,846?
The reason why I asked for 20,000 was that is the budgeted amount. The 17,846 was in order to compare apples to apples, we prepared basically a generic like office and layout. And this will allow us to go back now and then physically customize it. Like I like a little pencil drawer behind me, but I don't like a pencil drawer where I bang it on my knees every day. So it'll allow us to go back and do those customizations.
That's fine, in an amount not to exceed $20,000. Way too much information, is there a second? Yeah. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item is item number 7. It's the update on the electricity purchase. The city, last time this brought up in the end of '06, we didn't know what the legislators were going to do, and I still don't think we know that situation. So right now, we're still in a wait and see, and we're still with Commonwealth Edison, correct?
That's correct. In fact, this week, it was not passed, and then almost immediately upon stating that, they said that it's going to be taken up again. So the issue is far from over at the legislature side. We did default to ComEd. I kind of showed you on the attached graph that, you know, where we were in '06. So now that we defaulted to ComEd, you know, where we are in '07, and if the rate freeze occurs, we'll go back down to the '06 rate. If the rate freeze doesn't occur, then we'll hop out and go to the retail electric supplier rate. Had we gone to the retail electric supplier rate, we would have been stuck there for 2 years, and if the rate freeze occurred, we would have been higher than we could be. So that's why we're waiting things out.
Very good. It's for information only. No questions. We'll move on to item number 8. This is the, again, for information only on the Elizabeth Bridge painting. We had included in the budget $50,000 for painting of this bridge. Staff had determined that actually the type of materials that were used on the bridge were not to be painted. Therefore, the only painting that should be done would be on the bridge that is noticeable for aesthetic purposes. And Gary, my question is, do we have any idea as far as how much that will cost?
We're going to recommend, and again, come back to you at budget time, recommend that we do keep $50,000 in there for painting and then also some minor repairs to some of the abutment walls out there. So we're going to come back to you with that same value for next year's budget.
But would you agree that you're only looking to paint whatever is aesthetically visible?
That's our recommendation, that we only paint the railings that are visible.
I agree. Alderman Ptolemy?
Okay, I have a question. I mean, it can't cost $50,000. I know you just said you're going to fix the bangs and bruises, but it can't cost $50,000 to paint the railings. Do we have that much damage to that bridge?
No, and I'm coming to you tonight to basically tell you that, I guess, beyond the dollar signs, basically tell you that we'll be coming back We are gonna just paint the visible parts. We are gonna make some repairs to the bridge. And
So
if
it may or
I
may
sharpen
not-
my pencil before the budget time.
I was
it
gonna
turns
say,
out to
so
be
it may or may
30,000.
not be 50,000. Okay, okay, that's,
Alderman Wesley?
I just have one question. Last year, did we not paint a bridge by Elizabeth in last year's?
There was.
Or did we do repairs?
No, there was, last year there was an inspection done on Elizabeth Street Bridge. There was money in the or in the budget for painting that money in the budget wouldn't even have covered painting the railings. So we pushed it into the 06-07 budget and put in $50,000.
So last year, there was no painted on that bridge at
No,
all?
we didn't do any painting on that bridge at all.
Okay. That's fine, thank you.
That's for information only and for next budget item. Next is item number 9. This is the report on sanitary sewer backups. During the high amount of rainfall we had in December, city services were notified from a resident at 260 Oakwood experiencing sanitary sewer backups. Basically, staff has determined what one potential thing that could help the situation. One is, or two actually, one is actually some in-house items that the homeowner could do, which I don't think he was willing to do, Gary.
Oh, I don't think he stated that. I think he might be willing to do some of those.
Okay. And then the second was, currently there's a 36-inch pipe that reduces to an 18-inch pipe on the north plant. And so one of the issues was it's $200,000 to eliminate that restriction. Number one, I think this is a budget issue to discuss when we look at all the capital projects. But number two, since we are going to start looking at eliminating or building a new treatment plant, which again is long-term, I don't know if I want to put it in $200,000 into either one of the treatment plants if they're going to eventually be eliminated. Any comments, Gary?
As we're just entering the process now where we're going to be interviewing consultants for the new treatment plant. After the start of the new budget, we could have that consultant look at this issue and keeping in mind what you just said, that we maybe not want to make significant capital improvements, have them look at this issue and see what they could come up with for an interim Band-Aid solution that would serve to help the problem, but at the same time not dump a lot of money into it.
Right. That's the right idea. Any other questions or comments? Not, that's for information only. Next items are for items for future meetings. One is the IDOT and MFT resolutions for 1996 to 2006. B is the Public Works Building Architectural Services. C is the treatment plant conceptual engineering update.